You take lunch last today. You're the least important person here. Garrett's words hit me like a physical blow, intensified by the dead silence of our open office. 28 eyes turned toward my desk. I gripped the edge of my chair as warmth surged up my neck and flushed across my cheeks. Garrett stood in the center of the room, one hand casually in his pocket, the other pointing straight at me. The client presentation team goes first at noon, analysts at 12:30, marketing at 1 o'clock. Diza, you can leave after everyone else returns. He smiled thinly. Someone has to keep the phones covered. I forced a single nod, summoning my composure as I turned back to my monitor. That's when the glass entrance doors swung open. Eldon Pike, CEO of our largest client, strode in with two assistants trailing him. His voice resonated across the quiet office. "There's my miracle worker." To my shock, he was looking directly at me, Disa Elliott. He crossed the room, extending his hand. "Everyone, this woman single-handedly saved our annual stakeholder presentation when the data made absolutely no sense, worked straight through the night rebuilding our entire quarterly forecast." My boss's face drained to a ghostly gray as Eldon continued, his voice reaching every corner of the suddenly charged room. "I've been telling everyone how you discovered that accounting error that could have cost us millions. In fact, I'm here specifically to discuss expanding our contract, but only if you serve as our exclusive representative." Before I get to what happened next, let me take you back to how this all started. My name is Disa Elliott, and until 6 months ago, I was living an entirely different life. I had spent 5 years building a reputation at a top-tier financial consulting firm, specializing in spotting data anomalies others overlooked. I loved the precision of numbers, the narratives they revealed when interpreted correctly. When economic downsizing wiped out my department, I found myself starting anew at 32. Garrett hired me, though he made it clear I should feel grateful for the chance. "Your experience is impressive on paper," he said during my interview. "But this company demands a special kind of adaptability. We'll start you at entry level and see if you can manage." I agreed because my savings were running low and the job market was tough. What I didn't realize then was that Garrett had a habit of hiring overqualified women, undermining their confidence, taking credit for their work, and keeping them stuck in roles far beneath their potential. My first 3 months were a masterclass in subtle workplace manipulation. Garrett would assign me intricate projects with impossible deadlines, then call my results just adequate in team meetings. He'd invite everyone except me to strategic planning sessions, then scold me for not anticipating shifts in client requirements. My ideas were dismissed in meetings only to resurface weeks later as Garrett's innovative approach. The turning point came during the Pike Industries crisis. Pike Industries accounted for nearly 40% of our company's annual revenue, a client Garrett constantly reminded us he had personally cultivated for 7 years. Their quarterly financial review was looming, and our team was tasked with a rushed project to prepare their presentation materials. Garrett took the visible components himself and assigned the senior analysts: executive summary, strategic recommendations, visual presentations. I was given what he called background verification, basically checking numbers and formatting footnotes. "Perfect for your skill level," he told me, smiling without reaching his eyes. I stayed late that Thursday, cross-referencing data points while the office emptied around me. Around 9 o'clock, I noticed something unusual in the year-over-year projections, a discrepancy in the forecasting model that didn't align with prior quarters. Most people would have flagged it and moved on, but years of forensic accounting had trained me to tug at loose threads. 3 hours later, I had uncovered a critical flaw in their accounting structure, one that artificially inflated projected earnings by nearly 22%. If presented to stakeholders, it would trigger automatic penalties from investors once discovered. Worse, The error had rippled through every financial document prepared over the past 8 months. I called Pike Industries' finance director despite the late hour. "This can't be happening," Renhavers whispered as I walked her through my findings. "The stakeholder meeting is at 9 tomorrow morning. These projections are the centerpiece." "I can rebuild it," I heard myself say. "If you can grant me access to the raw data, I can reconstruct the entire forecast model tonight." What followed were 14 straight hours of intensive financial modeling. I rebuilt their quarterly forecast from scratch, correcting the cascading errors while preserving the accurate portions of their projections. By 11 a.m. the next day, I'd emailed the completed files to Ren with a detailed explanation of the original mistake and my methodology for correcting it. I said nothing to Garrett or anyone on our team. The project had been marked complete in our system, the files delivered. I simply continued with my assigned tasks, hoping that eventually my work would speak for itself. 3 weeks later, Garrett received a glowing email from Pike Industries, praising our team's exceptional attention to detail and financial insight that had transformed their quarterly reporting process. Garrett printed the email and posted it in our break room, adding a handwritten note. "This is why our senior team members handle the critical client components. The pattern persisted for months. I solved complex problems, creating systems and approaches that consistently exceeded client expectations." Garrett claimed the victories while continuing to sideline me in meetings, resource assignments, and yes, lunch rotations. My performance reviews stayed mediocre, despite client praise never reaching my file. When I inquired about advancement, Garrett would smile sympathetically. "You're just not quite there yet, Disa. Keep working on your fundamentals." After Eldon Pike's unexpected office visit and public recognition, workplace dynamics shifted subtly. Colleagues who had previously ignored me began soliciting my input. Junior team members approached my desk with questions they had once directed elsewhere. Even reception treated me differently, reserving the best office supplies that normally disappeared before reaching me. Yet Garrett grew more visibly threatened. His micromanagement intensified. My work faced even more scrutiny, with Garrett demanding multiple revisions on documents previously deemed acceptable. He started copying senior management on emails questioning my methodology or timelines. 2 weeks after the Pike incident, Garrett summoned me to a conference room. "I need to address your communication with clients," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "You've been operating outside established protocols." Inside was a printed email from Eldon Pike addressed to me, thanking me for additional insights I'd provided to optimize their new financial model. "All client communication goes through proper channels," Garrett insisted. "This creates confusion about who their actual point of contact is." "Eldon reached out to me directly," I explained. "I thought it would be impolite not to respond." "It's Mr. Pike to you," Garrett corrected. "And your job is data verification, not client relationship management." "I've worked with Pike Industries for 7 years. You've been here 7 months." I nodded, accepting the formal warning he placed in my file for circumventing communication protocols. That evening, I sat in my apartment staring at my laptop screen. The warning felt like the final push I needed. I opened a new document and meticulously recorded every interaction with Garrett, every client project I'd contributed to, every instance where my work had been misattributed. I created a timeline of emails, meeting notes, and project outcomes. Then, I made a choice. I would stop fixing Garrett's mistakes. For months, I'd quietly corrected errors in his reports, adjusted misaligned projections in his presentations, and clarified his confusing client communications. No more. I also began cultivating relationships with clients who had benefited from my unacknowledged work. Not by breaking protocols, but by being exceptionally thorough and responsive whenever they reached out through official channels. I made myself quietly indispensable while documenting every interaction. The quarterly business review was approaching, an all-day meeting where each department presented metrics to the executive team. Garrett had been preparing for weeks, refining his presentation, highlighting our division's remarkable client retention strategy. The day before the review, Garrett dropped a thick folder on my desk. "I need these numbers verified and formatted for tomorrow's presentation. I need it by 6. I opened the folder to find raw data from our 5 largest client accounts, including Pike Industries, with handwritten notes from Garrett dictating how he wanted certain metrics presented. The data told a very different story than Garrett planned to present. Client satisfaction ratings had dropped in 4 of 5 accounts. Response times had lengthened. The only consistently positive metrics were tied to projects I had directly handled. I verified the numbers exactly as they were, without the creative visualization Garrett had suggested. Povolatil at DS and Toro 1 I had prepared for Garrett, and another Garrett had presented as his own work. The only differences were the removal of my name and the addition of elaborate charts that misrepresented the data. "We need people who understand both numbers and clients," Anders continued. "Your role will oversee client strategy across all departments. Garrett will report directly to you." My breath caught. "Sir, given our history, I'm not sure that arrangement would be productive." "It's not permanent," Anders replied. "It's a transitional structure while we evaluate the entire department. How you handle this leadership opportunity, including managing someone who didn't value your contributions, will tell us a lot about your executive potential." The situation was clear. This was as much a test of my leadership capabilities as it was recognition of my work. "One last thing," Anders added as I stood to leave. "Why didn't you ever come forward about any of this?" I considered the question carefully. I believed the work would eventually speak for itself. I finally said, and it did. As I closed his office door behind me, my phone vibrated with a company-wide email announcing my promotion. By the time I reached my desk, 17 messages were already waiting in my inbox. The first was from Garrett. "We need to discuss this transition immediately." My office, 2 p.m. I didn't respond. Instead, I began methodically packing my personal items to move to my new office, previously occupied by the former head of client services who had recently retired. At precisely 2 p.m., I entered Garrett's office carrying a leather portfolio and closed the door behind me. He didn't stand. "This is an obvious mistake that will be corrected once the executive team realizes you lack the experience to manage client relationships at this level." "Is that what we need to discuss?" I asked, taking a seat without waiting for an invitation. "What you need to understand is that I built this department. These are my client relationships. This restructuring is temporary at best." I opened my portfolio and removed a single sheet of paper. "This is the transition plan approved by Anders. It outlines the new reporting structure and your responsibilities moving forward." Garrett barely glanced at it. "I'm not reporting to someone I hired as a data checker 7 months ago." "That's certainly your choice," I replied evenly. "I've included 2 options for your role moving forward. Option 1 maintains your current salary with adjusted responsibilities under the new structure. Option 2 is a generous separation package." His laugh held no humor. "You can't seriously believe you have the authority to terminate me." Page 2 detailed the separation provisions pre-approved by HR and legal should he choose that option. I watched as understanding slowly dawned on his expression. "Either way, I'll need your decision by tomorrow afternoon." "This won't end well for you," Garrett said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "I know every senior person in this industry. One word from me would carry far less weight than the testimonials from Pike Industries, Asteria Group, and Concord Financial, our 3 largest clients, who have all specifically requested to work with me and my team moving forward." I stood, gathering my portfolio. "Their combined business represents 62% of our annual revenue." "You orchestrated this entire thing," he said, realization dawning in his eyes. I paused at the door. No, Garrett. I simply stopped hiding how things actually worked. The reality became visible once I stepped out of your shadow. The next morning, Garrett wasn't at his desk. By afternoon, facility staff were packing his office while HR conducted an exit interview 3 floors away. He had chosen option 2. My new role brought immediate challenges. The team that had witnessed my public humiliation for months now looked to me for leadership. Some were immediately supportive, especially those who had also experienced Garrett's management style. Others remained skeptical, waiting to see if my authority would last. I spent my first week meeting individually with every team member, learning about their aspirations, frustrations, and ideas for improving client relationships. I discovered talented people who had been systematically undermined just as I had been. Elise, a brilliant strategist relegated to administrative tasks. Kendrick, whose innovative client portal idea had been repeatedly dismissed despite client demand. Phoebe, whose financial models were consistently more accurate than anyone else's, yet remained stuck in an entry-level position after 3 years. I wasn't ready for client interaction, he always said. Phoebe admitted during our one-on-one, but I have a master's in financial communications. Client interaction was literally what I was trained for. Pattern by pattern, I uncovered Garrett's systematic approach to maintaining control while limiting anyone who might challenge him. The department didn't lack talent, it lacked opportunity. In my second week, I implemented structural changes. We reorganized around client needs rather than internal hierarchies. Team members were assigned to accounts based on skill alignment, not seniority. Everyone received direct client contact appropriate to their expertise. By month's end, client satisfaction metrics had increased across all accounts, response times decreased by 40%, and project delivery accelerated while accuracy improved. Anders called me into his office after reviewing the first monthly performance data. Impressive turnaround, he noted, scrolling through the dashboard. But I'm curious about something. These improvements happened too quickly to be the result of new processes alone. The capability was always there, I explained. We just removed the barriers. He studied me thoughtfully. Garrett's leadership approach created those barriers. His approach was the barrier, I clarified. He deliberately limited team members' growth to maintain control. Anders nodded slowly. We should have recognized it sooner. You recognized it eventually, I offered. That's more than many organizations manage, yet it highlighted concerns about our ability to identify problematic management styles before they impacted talent retention. Anders tapped his desk thoughtfully. I'd like you to join our executive leadership team. We need your perspective as we evaluate management practices company-wide. Just like that, 4 months after being publicly named the least valuable person in the department, I was sitting at the executive table. The next quarter brought new challenges. 2 competitors attempted to poach our newly empowered team members with aggressive compensation offers. A key client underwent a merger threatening to eliminate their contract with us. Financial markets experienced unexpected volatility affecting our forecasting models. Through it all, our reconfigured team demonstrated remarkable resilience. People who once waited for instructions now proactively identified problems and proposed solutions. Meetings formerly dominated by a single voice now featured robust discussions from multiple perspectives. Most importantly, clients noticed the difference. Quarterly business reviews transformed from tense interrogations about missed deadlines into collaborative planning sessions for future growth. 6 months into my new role, I received an unexpected LinkedIn message. Congratulations on the well-deserved promotion. Your team certainly seems to be thriving. Perhaps we could meet for coffee sometime, Garrett. I ignored it. 3 days later, another message arrived. I've taken a position with Hendricks Group. They're very interested in your client management approach. A conversation between colleagues would be mutually beneficial. Hendricks Group was our largest competitor, known for aggressive client acquisition tactics. I forwarded the message to legal and continued focusing on our growth strategy. The following week, Eldon Pike requested an urgent meeting. Hendricks Group reached out with a compelling proposal. He explained, "They're offering significant cost reductions if we transfer our business to them." "That's not unusual during contract renewal season," I noted, maintaining a calm I didn't entirely feel. Pike Industries still represented our largest client relationship. "What's unusual," he continued, "is their representative claimed intimate knowledge of our financial structure and reporting requirements. They suggested your team was hiding operational inefficiencies affecting service costs." I raised an eyebrow. "That representative wouldn't happen to be Garrett, would it?" Eldon confirmed my suspicion with a subtle nod. He presented a detailed analysis of our account. Some points seemed concerning until our financial team reviewed them. And what did they find? Creative misrepresentation of standard industry metrics. Eldon smiled thinly. "The same type of manipulation you caught in our forecasting error." Apparently, Garrett didn't realize we now have staff trained to spot exactly those distortions. Relief washed over me. "I appreciate you bringing this to my attention." "I didn't come to warn you," Eldon clarified. "I came to inform you that we're expanding our contract with your firm by an additional 30% next quarter, and to ask if you'd consider presenting at our annual Financial Leadership Summit. We'd like others to learn your approach to data integrity and client partnership." News of Pike Industries' expanded contract and Garrett's failed poaching attempt spread quickly through industry channels. 2 more clients increased their engagements with us. 3 prospective clients requested proposals specifically citing our reputation for data integrity. 9 months after my promotion, Anders invited me to dinner with the board of directors. What I had assumed would be a standard quarterly discussion turned out to be something entirely different. "We've been evaluating our succession planning," the board chair explained between courses. Anders had indicated his intention to transition toward retirement over the next 18 months. I nodded, wondering why this concerned me directly. "We'd like you to consider a new role as Chief Operating Officer," she continued. "You would work directly with Anders to learn all aspects of company leadership with the potential to advance further when he retires." The opportunity was beyond anything I could have imagined when I joined the company barely 16 months earlier. "Your ability to transform underperforming systems while maintaining client relationships demonstrates exactly the leadership philosophy we want to cultivate," she added. "Plus, the financial results speak for themselves. Your division's profitability has increased 43% year over year." I accepted the position, of course. The transition would begin the following month after completing the current quarter's reporting cycle. 2 days later, I received another LinkedIn message. "Heard about your continued ascent. Perhaps now you might see the value in that coffee conversation. I have insights about the board that could prove useful in your new role, Garrett." This time, I responded, "Thank you for your interest in my career progression. All communication regarding our company should be directed through appropriate channels as outlined in your separation agreement. I wish you continued success at Hendricks Group." I blocked his profile immediately after sending the message. My first official day as COO dawned with unexpected news. Hendricks Group had announced a major restructuring, including significant leadership changes. Garrett's name appeared on the list of departing executives. Their press release cited strategic differences regarding client relationship management. That afternoon, Anders dropped by my new office. "Interesting development at Hricks," he remarked casually. "Their CEO called me this morning. Apparently, Garrett had been making certain representations about client relationships that didn't materialize." "That sounds familiar," I replied, unable to suppress a small smile. "Indeed," he continued. "They've also had 3 complaints about his management approach in just 4 months." Anders shook his head. Some people never learn that leadership isn't about control, it's about cultivation. Speaking of cultivation, I said, changing the subject, I've been reviewing our management training programs. I'd like to propose some adjustments based on what we learned from the department restructuring. I'd expect nothing less, Anders said with approval. That's exactly why you're sitting in that chair. 1 year to the day after Garrett had publicly announced that I was the least valuable person on the team, I stood at the podium during our annual company meeting. As COO, I was presenting our new strategic direction to over 300 employees. I outlined our vision for collaborative leadership, transparent client relationships, and growth opportunities for team members at all levels. I introduced professional development pathways designed to identify and nurture talent throughout the organization. Most importantly, I announced a fundamental shift in company culture. Value would no longer be determined by position, seniority, or who speaks the loudest. Value would be measured by contribution, collaboration, and the difference we make for our clients and each other. As applause filled the room, I caught sight of former team members, now department heads, team leaders, and rising stars. People whose talents had been buried under an insecure manager's need for control were now driving innovation across the company. That evening, as I gathered my things to leave, I found a small package on my desk with a card signed by the entire former team. Inside was a custom-made nameplate for my desk, Dasa Elliott, Most Valuable Leader. The revenge wasn't in Garrett's downfall. It was in the thriving of everyone he had tried to diminish. These days, lunch schedules are a thing of the past in our office. We have a fully stocked kitchen and flexible breaks. People eat when they're hungry, rest when they need to recharge, and collaborate without artificial hierarchies. Everyone is valuable here, and they all know it. If my story resonated with you, whether you've experienced workplace marginalization or witnessed it happening to others, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever navigated a toxic work environment? Did you find ways to demonstrate your value despite obstacles? Your experiences might help someone else currently walking the path I once traveled. Hit the like button if you believe in workplaces where everyone's contributions are recognized, and subscribe to hear more stories of professional transformation and justice. Remember, sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't about bringing others down, it's about lifting yourself and everyone around you higher than anyone thought possible.